Hello, AfterBuzzers. Thank you for joining us today. You are tuned in to Season 2, Episode 1 of Get Shorty. Miles got arrested. Katie is in therapy. Let's sit here and let's just talk about it. Dive in with us.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
This is literally the perfect song. The perfect song. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Hey, thank you guys.
Of course, I am your host, Thelma Mbaezue-Daniel. I'm so blessed to be here. And to the left of me,
It's Tenere Williams. Good to see everyone, or have everyone joining us today. We got some good stuff.
we definitely have some good stuff in store for you guys. Not only are we talking about Miles being arrested, obviously, Katie going to therapy, and the biggest one of all, Gladys is pregnant.
Right.
How did this, first of all, let's just go ahead and jump right into Gladys being pregnant. Right. Because how do you get pregnant if your boyfriend is a Mormon? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
So yeah, that was like an amazing, like you said, just that whole scene when that came about. You know, you were like, oh man, is she really maybe? I really thought like, you know, he was thinking like, oh, she's about to dump me or something. You know, she kind of goes into it, drops the bomb, boom, I'm pregnant. And you're like, what? And okay, the whole conversation, audience, just so you guys know.
Because you're giving me your overall thought right now. Like, are you going to just give me your overall thought on everything?
Yeah.
On the episode?
So I thought it was real. I thought it was real interesting. I'm definitely, I was taken back, you know, for sure. So let's put it like that, and we'll definitely dive into this some more for sure.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. What I love so much about this show is, in addition to it just being amazingly written, and, you know, we have a series, Get Shorty has really been successful in 3 aspects, right? So you have the book and you have the movie, but now you have the series that really takes it to a whole nother level and just adds so much depth and complexity. So I'm very excited to see this season and to see that we still have a lot of the momentum from last season being continued on with a lot of the same humor, you know? So it's it's definitely a pleasure, you know, to watch.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great, because like you said, just those 2 worlds of mobster, you know, gangsters, and then movies. It's just like there's so much, and I love how they toe the line, like with the characters and just the stuff that they get into. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where they go, like you said, this season.
Absolutely. And for our fans today, in addition to talking about mob and movies, we have a little special segment a little on down the line, so we'll be back to that. So let's talk about Miles. He's definitely going through it right now, and he's suppressing. And he's truly suppressing. And he's really hit rock bottom, I would say, because once you pee in the sink, like, is that not rock bottom? What do you think?
Oh my God. You know what? My man's definitely going through some stuff right now, you know, and which, I mean, he's trying so hard just to make all these aspects of his life work, you know, but yeah, coming back home, just unloading in the sink. And which is, you know what? It's funny because I've never done that, but I remember in college, there was definitely some times when like roommates came back and you're like, what is going on right now? You know, like nobody ever peed in a sink, but there was definitely times where like some people came with like, what, like, why are your pants wet? Like, ran, you know, and you're just like, what happened? You know, and they're like, I don't know, you know, just drunken, like, stupors, you know. So I was when he did that, I was like, I can kind of relate to, you know.
You know, but in his case, he really is dealing with a lot. And I think the beauty of him is when we even met Miles as a character, he is, you know, actually dismembering somebody's body. Right. But the beauty of watching all of that was, as he's doing such a dreadful act, he's talking about his family. The entire core of who he is his family, and that's what humanizes his character so much, is the relationship that he has with his daughter and the relationship that he wants to salvage with his, you know, with his wife, soon to be ex-wife. Right. So I think that the reality of the fact that they still have so much love between them, but the outside factors are not allowing their relationship to blossom. I think that's really what's making it so hard for him to deal with it. You know, it'd be different if it's like she doesn't want to be with you, she doesn't like you, but it's like, it's not even that. It's the fact that I love you, I will always love you, but I have to do what's best for our daughter, you know?
Yeah, it's like you said, that's what makes the character so you're invested in them because, like you said, they're not just like stone cold killers where it's like, oh man, they just take people out. And they definitely have, which I appreciate with the with the writers and all that stuff. They make them very human, and like you said, they go through real things that all of us go through, but they just happen to be, we take people out, when we need to. So. And I love Miles. He's just like a complex, he's just got some complex things going on in his life, and which includes his family and his job, and now trying to make movies. It's
I think the movie business might actually be not he might actually be the right person for the movie business because, like he said, he's very persuasive, right? But at the same time, I think it's really interesting to see how a lot of these Hollywood big hitters, they're not used to dealing with that much force, that much confidence, that level of manipulation. And speaking of Miles, I think it's really important to note that he's picked up a lot of tips from Amara. He has been learning from that woman because the way that we see him, because yes, he uses muscle because honestly, I think that's really what he knows. That's all he knows is how to really use muscle. But now we see him taking it to the next level with intimidation, with mental tactics, with continuous manipulation. So I can only attest to him not only learning from her, but coming a little more into his own and into where he is, But I think the beautiful thing that we kind of see going on here is while he's going through all of this, Lewis, Best Friend Award with the walker.
That dude, I love me some Lewis. Like you said, the part in tonight's episode when he comes home, or no, he wakes up the next morning from being on the ground, like what happened? My man Lewis had the coffee ready, his aspirin,
had his breakfast
cooked. I was like, oh.
He was throwing dishwasher in in the sink, hooking him up, taking care of him. Yeah,
he's like you said, again, going back to in terms of what they're the mobster side of them, but then just seeing like the very human side, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna take care of my friend, take care of my friend here. Hey, you've been going through some stuff, like talk to me, what's going on, wanting him to come to church, and all this stuff. Like it's their relationship, the Miles Lewis relationship. I really like it. I think it's very endearing.
It is very endearing, and I love the fact that Lewis is again in his own complexity, right? So you have this man who literally murders people for a living. You are an enforcer, but you don't want to have sex before marriage. Yet you know what I mean? It's like, he has this moral compass, right? Amidst all of this chaos that he finds himself within. So I think that now that we're seeing that he might be having a child, how do you think this is going to really play out, Not even going into predictions, but I'm just saying even in this episode, do you think he's really come to terms with that? Do you think he really wants it to happen?
Well, that's like you said, you could just see it on his face when she told him, and he was definitely kind of taken aback, and it was kind of in a situation I felt like, first of all, like, wait, what? And then...
Wait, what did he call it? What was the term that he called it? Soaking?
Oh, so yes.
You want to go into the soaking?
I definitely want to get into this. So I don't know, viewers out there, if you guys are aware of this. I know I hadn't really heard of it, so I was like, I'm going to have to kind of go into this. So I looked up when Lewis mentioned, like, we were soaking. So apparently it is actually a real thing. I'm going to actually bring it up for you guys.
Did you look up the dictionary definition?
I did. I went to the Urban Dictionary.
Okay, that's the real one.
Exactly. And they, apparently it is a real thing, people. So, let me just go into this real quick. Let me just pull it up because I got.
But I wonder how many people have gotten pregnant from soaking.
That would be an interesting thing. So here. Let me give you the definition. This is from the UrbanDictionary.com. It says soaking, the art of having sex without thrusting. When a couple, quote unquote, sticks it in and then leaves it there to, quote unquote, soak. This has become a common phenomenon with certain groups of Christians, predominantly Mormons. Lewis is Mormon, who try to circumvent the law of chastity, which in fact does not work. So yeah, I mean, that was
creating loopholes.
yeah, because that's and he had mentioned that he was
He
like, yeah, you
definitely
didn't,
did.
you don't go back and forth, which was just a funny moment with Lewis and Miles when Miles is trying to comprehend, like, wait, you didn't,
Yeah.
you just let it sit there,
Yeah, and he was like, I can see why you didn't mention it.
right? Because it can be like, what?
I can see why. But the thing is, what I love so much about the writing, and Darby Holmes, he's amazing, the showrunner and the writer of this project. He always brings things back to home. Everything comes full circle, right? Even him sitting there and explaining what soaking is to Miles definitely took me back to season 1. When he originally had that encounter with Gladys, and she didn't really understand. Like, what? You don't have sex, you don't drink, you don't drink coffee, and she literally had to kind of beat him out of him. Well, can we do something? Because we can't have a relationship without that intimacy. In that sense, she felt.
It was well, like you said, it was I learned something on the show tonight. So I was like, because when he said it, I was like, what? And I wonder if the writers put it in like, hey, maybe someone out there is going to look that up. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, if there's maybe
a
people
soaker out there.
Yeah, people in the Mormon community. Can you talk about this? Or even if you're not Mormon, I'm
sure this came from the slippery mind of a teenager.
Right. Some writer was talking to their kids at home, like, why don't you just talk about soaking, Dad? Like, what?
What is that?
Okay.
Speaking of kids, oh my goodness, the character development in the show is just wonderful and refreshing. And we see Katie, and we've seen that relationship. She is Shorty. That's our Shorty. And it's really interesting to see her growing up. And you can even tell, even in her look, her hair is darker this season to kind of reflect that rebellious phase that she's kind of going through. But it's almost internal, because I expected her to be more outwardly rebellious and, talking back or anything along those lines. But instead, she's really just trying to get to know her father for who he really is. She doesn't really want the facade of who you are.
Right. And I think it's just to add more complications to Miles' life, like having a teenage daughter, going through, like you said, trying to really establish that relationship, with her, but can't be totally, forthcoming about what's going on. Even though, like, it's one of those things, like, I felt at a certain point, even in some of their conversations, like, he was still trying to, like, dumb stuff down to her. And it's like, teenagers are smart, they're like, you can't really pull stuff on. Like, I know something's going on or whatever. And he's trying to navigate that world, or, and it's just not working out for him. So, it's like you said, but again, it's such a, and I know I have a daughter. She's not a teenager, but she's 5. But eventually,
she's getting up there.
And just having that kind of that father-daughter, connection is kind of something like, okay, that's gonna be down the road for me. Like that will be coming to a head. But I like the way that, like you said, that whole relationship is just playing out, even though it's kind of.
And I think that, when again, just going back to last season, even when we see the show begin, it starts off with the interaction between him and his daughter and that love for movies. And then if you want to trace back to how Miles even came into the movie business and loving the movie business the way he does, it's definitely his uncle. So you still see that, like, adult-child relationship almost reflected from his uncle and himself, and how much they loved the movie, to now him trying to bring his daughter into that. But I feel like he's also derailed her love for movies or movie making, or even wanting to pursue acting, by lying to her about the source and the truth behind this film.
Yeah.
Seeing your dad get hurt is very scary for a 12-year-old.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and it's going to be interesting how that continues to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. But in addition to, like, all the amazing shows we have here, we should go ahead and tell the people about the other developments we have going on in AfterBuzz.
How about we go ahead and do that? So, hey, AfterBuzzers, here at the network, we produce after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There's no network that works harder to serve television fans. But now we need your help, and we're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. Besides helping us a ton, here's what's in it for you. It caters specific content you already like directly to you. It brings you your favorite after shows so you don't have to seek them out, and it suggests content from other channels or podcasts that might interest you. Subscribing to our YouTube channels will also help you discover new shows we're sure you'll love. Since you're already tuned into the drama channel, you might be interested in Handmaid's Tale or Power or Ballers, or any of those great shows. And remember, we have channels for other genres too. So please don't be shy about subscribing to them either. And if you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't be. You know why? Because they're optional. And it's easy. Hit that subscribe button now for an even easier AfterBuzz experience. And if you let us know you did in the comments, we'll thank you on air.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being the best fans, and we promise to continue to do our best to serve you.
Absolutely. And you know who's really doing a great job serving us on this show, Get Shorty? The casting directors, Charlene Lee and Rachel Turner. Oh my goodness. This show is so wonderfully casted.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have these new elements coming in this season from the new FBI director. She really brings a nice flavor into it, trying to tell Rick how to get in tune with Amara.
Right.
And then you have Lawrence, the new studio head, where, she'll be working. That's amazing. But also, I think the most interesting relationship that I saw, the newest character that really kind of brought some charge, was the cartel liaison. Now, she is really giving Amara a run for her money. What do you think of that?
She's no joke. And like we had discussed it when we were watching it, she's definitely kind of giving Amara a little bit of her own medicine, just in terms of her character. Like that meeting at the table, I mean,
that was classic. When she tried to speak like Spanish, and she was like, ooh.
I was like, you don't get just really colder than that. I mean, she's just about business, when Amara tried to speak in Spanish, like, hey, I can speak in Spanish with you. When am I going to get my money? We assume you have other sources of income. It was just like, boom, 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 question after question. Are we finished? You can go. And you were just like, Amara.
Exactly. It's like the table turns. You're like, wait, this is Amara's role. She does this.
Exactly.
She dismisses. She does not get dismissed. What do you mean?
Exactly. You could see in her face, Amara was just flustered, kind of like, man, they got me on, and it was just like, yeah, we're done. Like, anything. I was like, woo, this lady's going to be something to deal with.
It's oh my God, it's definitely something to deal with. And we see how that takes a toll on Amara, because prior to this, Rick, of course, I kind of really liked their relationship. And again, just speaking to the truth of how the writers are so wonderfully bringing everything back together. She finally opens up to Rick this episode, right? And she's, because she's going through so much and she has not many people to turn to, you know what I mean? And she opens up to him, and he said something to her that she actually said to him when they had dinner for the first time. And she was like, you're better than this, So it was wonderful to see, because the first time they had dinner, she was sitting across from him, and she was like, you're better than this. You just need somebody. You need the right kind of woman to bring that man out of you, the person you truly are. And that's how their relationship started. Right. So it seems like now that it's come full circle where she's almost turning away and she's feeling like, I don't know if I can really depend on him. He was like, I'm going to go home. It's been a rough day. She was like, okay, well, just leave. And right then in that moment, he was able to be like, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing for you. You're better than this. Right. And those people who are trying to push you around, it's going to come full circle. So I really like what's going on here. It's
like you said, that relationship as well. You kind of saw, like you said, that human side of her come around, and I think it almost kind of caught Rick a little, because he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go," and she starts, opening up, and he was kind of like, "Wait, what?" And he said the line that said the line that the FBI agent told him to say, and he's like, "Is this gonna really work?" Like it was on his face, like, "Wow." And so she opens up, and when she gave him that hug, it was kind of like I feel like. You're almost like, oh, is he gonna, maybe in that situation, like, whoa, she's like a human. Like, am I gonna really, do I want to go through it? I don't know. Like, who knows with how he might be feeling, but, to maybe go against her or to have to test, it's like.
But he did have that entire confessional, with his button. He had a heart to heart with the button. Like, listen, Amara might not be a great person, but she's good to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? She's good to me. Yes, so what am I going to do about that? And I think that as we're seeing all of this play out, I love that Rick is kind of coming into terms into how much he really cares for Amara, because I feel like sometimes your fear can cloud that, right? She's buying you new cars that don't fit your personality.
Right.
She's buying you clothes that don't fit your personality, but beneath it all, there's really something there. Right?
That vulnerability that. Like you said, you can tell she just doesn't let people in, And I mean, in that world,
rightfully so.
In that world, you can't be. You got to always be just hard and, But like you said, he catches her at that moment, you know, that vulnerable moment where she's willing to kind of, and I'm just speaking like as a man, that seems like that would just be hard. You'd be like, oh man, like she's just melting in his arms, you know, like she looked like she was like crying at the end or just having like a tough day, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, you know, I don't know. It's very conflicting too.
It is conflicting. It very much is conflicting, but I feel like Rick really does care for Amara. And just back to her humanizing side, we all know what she came from. You know, she was literally sold to a man 3 times her age for 5 goats. You know, it ended up slitting killing him and like slitting his neck, you know, just to survive. So she's somebody who comes from a background of needing to be tough at all times and then lives in a business where she needs to be tough. She can't even trust her own family.
Right.
You know, her nephew is at every corner trying to derail her, you know? And what did you think of the fact where, let's just really go into Yaya really quickly, when he and Miles kind of had that face-to-face, Miles and Lewis had that face-to-face after their altercation.
Yeah, are you at the
movie? At the premiere. That was just interesting because I feel like he literally sent hitmen out to them. You know, Lewis is walking in a walker right now and recovering from the injury and the near-death experience that you caused.
Right.
You know, Miles is dealing with the chaos in his family because you erupted all of this, because you sent people after me who shot at me, and now I didn't have the room to not necessarily lie, but protect my daughter for some of the things that I wanted to protect her from, you know?
It's amazing as you kind of look into like I said, I can't imagine being in that world, like the whole but some of the rules and the things, like how the stuff that they do, and then can kind of relate to each other. I mean, almost like lead like normal lives, but stuff will go down. People in the same room, like I hate you, but you know, we gonna be here and make
politics.
This work. And it's just like, wow. And like you said, they take it obviously to an extreme on things. So it's oh man, yeah. When I saw that, I was kind of looking. You're just like, that's just a crazy environment and world to be in.
But I love that though. That's what I love the most about the show, is because it brings that dry, you know, tough humor to things, you know, and that's really funny because you're sitting here and you already told Amara that you guys have squashed everything, so you can't react and you can't act in a way, you know what I'm saying? You can't act in a way that shows that you still have malice, you know. But at the end of the day, you know that the beef is still very much real.
And it's funny that you were just mentioning like she can't even trust family, but if something probably went down with her family, you know, she'd probably have to come after you, know, like, even though I don't like this dude, but you can't mess with him. He's like, I'll mess with him. But you know, it's kind of like one of those things, like even in your own family, like if you don't like someone, like you could talk to him, but it's like if an outsider says something, like, oh no, like you don't talk to my family, like even though I don't like you, but I'll talk to her like that, but you don't talk to, you know.
You don't get to say anything.
You don't get that privilege. So
I mean, but you know, right now I just feel like there's a lot of people, especially just going back to Miles and just being in that movie theater and the director's cut, there are a lot of things going on, and I think that in his effort to protect his family, especially his daughter Shorty, along with also kind of impress her. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, come to the movie set. You still love me? Are we still friends? Like outside of just dad, you know, outside of that relationship, can we still be cool? I think that you also see other people doing that, like you're saying. Amara, you know, she has to protect her nephew because at the end of the day, she knows that he's not as wise as he should be. As you can tell, the way the beginning of the episode, they had a huge run-in with the cartel, huge run-in with the cops, and we just don't even know how that's going to play out.
I think, first of all, that movie scene was just when we were talking about it. That was just, beautiful. I thought it was just a great scene, just because I knew at the beginning, I was like, everything seems to be going, everyone's too happy, you know, like, hey, let's get. And then when you see Miles just freaking out and he comes back with the walker, I mean, it's just total chaos. And I was like, it was funny, but you were just like, man, I'm feeling for this dude because
I definitely am.
He's trying to get everything together, and I was like, that director, he just seemed a little off, you know, just
our Viking.
Exactly. When he said that, I was just like, oh, here we go.
You know, the beauty of Chris O'Dowd is a lot of people don't know him to do shows like this or roles like this, but the truth is he's actually a classically trained actor. He's trained in the art of Shakespearean acting and like super drama, so I'm very excited to see him use those tools throughout the episode, throughout the season. He's continuously using those tools, so it brings everything to a full force. And I loved, let's just talk about that director's cut a little bit, because I loved how everything went extremely silent, right? And then you just see the reactions from Amara just screaming. And honestly, she's kind of in fear because at this point, she's not even in a position where it's just about her making her money. It's about her making her money and giving it back to the cartel.
Right.
So now her life is on the line as well.
Right.
But I think one person that we definitely need to kind of touch on a little bit outside of Yayo is our director. What was he thinking with that director's cut?
And I wonder, and that's something, like you said, I would love to speak to like some kind of like executive or be like, how often does that happen? Like, does that, is that kind of a one-off? Or, I mean, is everyone usually on the same page? Or, because I'm sure because
April jumped in quickly. She was like, the director doesn't have final say. It's fine. We'll fix this, even though she's going to a new studio.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's one of, like, you feel like, especially I would feel like with those high-powered like the people who do like big films, it's like if you come in and just pull some garbage, or they're just like, what is this? I mean, because that's a lot of money on the line, like a lot of the time, especially when you have these like higher budget films and all this stuff. And just to go rogue and do something like that,
he had
it's just
voiceovers.
like,
It's like, dude, when did we discuss voiceovers?
Oh, and I could see, like you said, especially when you're playing with other people's money or investors, and like this is what you get, like you thought you could just, oh man. But then like there's always the artful side of making movies, or and people like, oh, this is I don't know. I thought it was like hilarious, and the fact when he picked up the walker, though, I was like, this is when like this, that bringing that mobster, sentiment into that scene where it's like, I'm gonna just grab the closest thing, to. I'm not just gonna yell. Like I'm ready to get physical and knock you upside the head with this walker. I mean, that was a great scene. I think that would be a fun scene to I mean, just because everybody
No, I think that one thing that I love so much is just the fact that Miles is coming fully into his own, because yes, he left Ireland because things got rough. He left Vegas because things got rough, and now he's in LA, and to some extent he's actually getting jobs because he knows how to be rough or persuasive, so to speak. But I think that last season we saw him kind of dibble and dabble, right? Whenever Lewis wanted to kill somebody or just go straight there, he's like, let's find another way. But now he's fully sitting in it. Like, this is it. I am not, he was literally, exact quote, I am not the guy who you tell to F off, and I just F off. You know what I mean? You either keep your end of the deal or you're going to regret not doing so. So I'm really excited to see him come fully into that role and just being like, this is what it is, and you're not about to mess with me, period.
No, that's actually a really good point. And he's just always, I feel like as he gets in more into Hollywood, like you said, when he first came in, one thing that I think is actually interesting with just him coming into Hollywood, I always feel like there's a lot of, I don't know what the term is, kind of like a bullying in Hollywood, because everybody's always got
the... Of course, there's definitely a pecking system.
But he's actually like a real, but like, that's why when you mentioned earlier, like he really comes in as like, I'm not down with the talking, like we could get physical, but like he did with the
Amy
agent.
Adams is going to be in my movie, whether you like it or you don't.
Oh, when he told him, whenever he said the line, like, tell her, no, he says to say, like, it's, you're the only one who can like bring, the guy was like, really? He's like, no, that's what you tell her. I was like, this dude's just like, oh. And then for him to go from, being rough, and then he gets like, in the car with Lewis.
But definitely, we have to transition. We definitely have to transition into like, because the thing is, with the mobsters in the movies, we really need to know that we're doing a special segment on that too.
Yes.
So our special segment today is definitely going to be around the theme of mobsters and movies. And for me, what I want to kind of speak on is my favorite like highlight of where we see Miles loving a movie and when he kind of hones that mobster attitude. And for me, we've seen him go through so much, even when in the finale last time, he had to literally appeal and beg to Amara and be like, listen, we put all this hard work into what we did. how did you feel when you were sitting there and you saw the product of our creativity, everything that we did? So you know that he really blood, sweat, and tears literally for this. So coming into that movie for the screening when you had the director's cut, I just loved, my favorite movie moment for him was when the lights went down and you saw the look in his eyes. It was so big and he was so excited, and it just kind of reveled back to that little boy. It was like, wow, I made a movie. And then it flips.
Right.
And then it flips because it definitely flips, because then he
flips. Out.
He literally flips out.
Right.
He literally flips out after being arrested, because the truth of the matter is, I told you, I warned you not to mess with me. I have this soft side. I love films, but I'm also a gangster, you know? So I think on the flip side of it, my favorite mob aspect of him was when he was in the car with Lewis, and Lewis is trying to give him the whole talk about, you know, you're going through things, you really need to face this divorce head on. And he just was like, okay, cool, this sounds good. Goes in, beats up the freaking manager, beats up the agent completely, you know, throws the wine on him.
Disrespectful.
Just disrespects this man completely, right? And then comes back in the car and is like, but you know, Louis, I might go to church with you. I'll think about it.
Right. Like, I'm going to go through the life lesson, you know, right after I go teach this dude a life lesson, but I heard what you said.
I hear you. So it's like we're constantly, you know, battling between those two worlds. What about for you?
For me, it was interesting because when I saw from the first episode, when I noticed Amara, first of all, I love like any and all things gangster mob related. Like, I'll go on watch all TV shows,
you're a gangster,
bios, like it's just that world just fascinates me, you know, just in terms of the people who do it. So I watch everything like Gangland and all these like bios on these mobsters from the 20s and stuff. I watch all the mobster movies. So when I saw Amara's character, I was like, wow. I had recently seen, probably a couple months ago, some documentaries documenting this one gangster. Her name was Griselda Blanco, and she,
the godmother,
La Madrina, and
that even sounds really scary.
Yeah, you know,
La Madrina wants to talk to you. I think not.
Right, and she was no joke. And I mean, even the look that they have for Amara. I mean, when I looked up here, I was like, that looks like Griselda Blanco from she was in a documentary they did called Cocaine Cowboys. They've done multiple movies. Catherine Zeta-Jones played her in a recent kind of like biopic. And so she was just during the 80s when like the cocaine trade and all that stuff was really big in Miami. You know, she's from Griselda was originally from Colombia, immigrated to the United States, was a big part of the drug trade. Like I said,
so
down in Miami.
she reminds you very much of
but like
Amara.
her look, the way she talks. The black bodyguard she has, or that Amara has, Griselda had. So I'm like, I really think they probably based her character off, you know, Griselda, and the way that she, you know, that she talks, and just, I mean, she was a hardcore, like, just cold-blooded, like, killer. I think she was responsible, they said, something for like 200 murders down in Miami during the 80s. Like, she would be like taking out anybody and everybody. And so I think Amara's kind of very much the
that's
same.
your mobster.
Man,
so what's your movie moment? And so if you're staying in the theme of Amara,
I would say in terms of the movie moment, man.
because she was definitely really excited in a lot of different parts, just kind of like realizing the movie might be over, to trying to save it.
You know what? I thought maybe the part when they were in there, when she was first trying to collect, when she had visited Miles and Lewis on set, and they were in the trailer, and I don't know. I guess when they were trying to kind of explain to her like when she was going to get her money back, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, for somebody who loved the script and all of that, it's like...
Right, and when they were saying, or when especially when she said like, oh, well, I'll get it on the next one, and he was like, yeah, so that's not how this works, you know? Like, she wasn't basic, she's like, he's like, you only get paid back on the movies that you invest in, you know, so going forward, we'll have to see, you know, and she kind of had that look like, what, you know? So I don't know, I guess like maybe she's starting to learn, you know, in terms of also the movie side, you know, as Miles is going through doing stuff, as they've kind of had this partnership. So it'll be interesting going
That's
forward.
a really good point. That's a really good point you bring up, because for a woman who knows everything about something, she knows nothing about this specific aspect, which is the movies. Even when she first got the script, she literally had to have somebody read it to her. And that also is a test to say the lifestyle that she's had her entire life, But I think, just with the Gladys thing, I just feel like outside of that, and Amara and feeling this closeness with Rick, we have a lot of relationships going on this season, right? So many different dynamics of relationships. We have Rick and Amara, who are, I think they're in love or in fear. We'll touch on that. And then we have Miles and, of course, like his relationship that is headed for divorce. But at the same time, like Gladys, not only her relationship with Louis, but her relationship with her sister kind of came into play. Her sister kind of planted in her ear that thing about the biological clock. So where are these relationships like going?
You know what? I think they're all going to, as Miles and Louis, continue down the road with their movie making. I feel that they're going to just come in somewhere, like we're trying to get this done, and like you said, I mean, the fact that she's pregnant with his, with his baby, is that relationship going to change? Like you said, with in terms of, he's very much, he very much likes or is in love with her, but now, like you said, you throw a child in the mix, like. Is Miles and Lewis's relationship, maybe that might, like, hey man, I got a baby coming along, I can't be doing all this crazy stuff, and man, I think that's so much that's to be explored.
I think that's very true, and I think these dynamics will definitely continue to explore. We'll definitely continue to see how they're going on, and maybe more than one person will end up in therapy. I kind of like that Katie's in therapy right now, because I think she's going to be able to pull those tools from her therapist, like she already did about forgiving her dad, and she might actually end up being sort of a therapist for her father, because she's learning so much in therapy and taking those tools. So let's transition into predictions, because we're kind of already like rolling into
heading down that road. You know what?
Now, your
AfterBuzz
TV
predictions.
Yeah, in terms of the relationship with his daughter going forward, I like your premise about her being like almost there, because she just has kind of that demeanor about her where she would I just see her being like, Dad, X, Y, and whatever they're talking about, and he's the one that, even though he's the adult in the situation, she might be the more mature one, so I think, I don't know, I'm interested to see like where she's gonna go, where she's gonna kind of fit in down the road
With her dad.
Yeah. If he's gonna try and get her back, is she gonna try and get back into, movie making? Is she gonna, find out? Is she? He's been pretty good about hiding stuff from her. But is he gonna slip up and maybe she sees something, or comes?
I mean, it all started with her seeing, her mom's gun, and I love Lydia. I think not Lydia, I mean Katie,
right,
and Daly, and I think that they're all doing a really good job in that sense. But I just feel like for that relationship, as much as they try to drift away from one another for the sake of Shorty, for the sake of Katie, the love that they have there and the excitement that they have. Because as much as they want to get away from this life, I think they're all sort of a little bit addicted to it, just a little bit. And I think that Yayo, well, perhaps not addicted, because at the end of the day, it is causing a lot of strain. So we do see that shift happening completely, because even when Miles is talking to Amara and she was like, I'm doing my next movie, she's like, am I getting a cut? He was like, no. Like, he's starting to draw those lines, right? Fully set into who he is. I'm no longer working for you. I'm not an enforcer for you. I've already lost enough. I've lost my family. So I think Miles is now moving from this aspect of a guy who almost still has a lot to lose, but has lost so much that he's not willing to like tiptoe around anyone at this point. So we have to see how that kind of goes. But I feel like as he continues to move and tread down that narrative, his family will definitely come back, because the reason they weren't there in the first place is because he was serving other people and working for other people. So once he kind of becomes steadfast in who he is, I really don't think she's going to go forward with the divorce.
I think it's so hard just to break out of that that life from what it seems like. You know, it's even though you can try so hard to get away, something's always pulling them back. You know, whether it's this is just the life that I know, and this is how I've always dealt with certain things. So I get like, you know, Miles, I get rough with people. I beat them up in restaurants, or, you know, like that's what I know, you know, and it's those mob roots where it's just like, hey, I'm not in the game, you know, taking people out and killing them, but it's still just like, you know, my mannerisms, the way I talk to people. I mean, he's super direct with people, you know, which I feel like being in the Hollywood setting, a lot of times people kind of, everyone's like, hey, like this and that, we'll do that, you know, and he's always like just very, so what are we doing? Is this like, where's my money? You know, type thing. So, and I appreciate it. And even, I think it's that good, dynamic, taking kind of like Hollywood BS and then just someone who's like
straight up, no BS.
Yeah, you know,
but
like you're making this movie.
Yeah, but the truth is, he brings the BS when he needs to, right? So that's the thing. He is carefully treading between manipulator and, you know, enforcer, even in this role. But, you know, one more character that I kind of want to touch on a little bit is just Goya Robles, who plays Yoya. Young actor, amazing, brings a lot of energy to the set, I believe. How do you think his character is going to go? Because now at first he was taking over the casino, which is what he wanted, but now he's back in Los Angeles. What do you think?
Yeah. He's first of all, I totally agree with you. I love his character, the way he what he brings to the table. In terms of what I see with him, oh man, he's just always, it seems to be inserting. I don't know if he's inserting himself or he just gets in people's situations, you know. So and it's always like you said, he's kind of like the wannabe, like yeah. Like when he was up in dude's face, like, what you mean you called the lawyer without, you know?
Like, you talked to me.
People were like, so you didn't want us to do it? Like, well, no, like, you know.
I wanted you to do it. I just wanted you to take my direction.
Exactly, and you kind of feel like his guys are like, okay, dude, like, whatever, we need to do what we. So, you know, I'm sure there's some form or fashion he's gonna get, like I said, inserted into a situation. Like, he's just like a thorn in Miles' side. Yeah. And he's just always showing up at the worst times, you know? So it's just like,
I don't even know how he got invited to the screening. It's like, what are you doing here?
What I'm
like,
saying.
You're supposed to be in Nevada.
And you could tell on Miles' face, like, when he just showed, like, what? Like, really? You here? You know, type thing. And he's like, yep. You know, type, like.
I'm just, I really hope that we see more with Yair, because we already see him blossoming a little more, because he's such an entitled character, very, very insecure. So I just want to see how that comes into play. You even see his insecurities being played out in all aspects, from the way that he relates to his employees that have no respect for him or try to show him respect, to the way that he feels entitled over his aunt's business, you know, like feeling like he needs to take over or do his thing on the side. But then he also talked about a relationship. He talked about how, like, he got ghosted by his ex, you know? Right. So it's like on all facets, you see this man trying to deal with, you know, his insecurities, but he's just lashing out at other people. So I'm really excited to see how his character development comes into play. But I actually predict that this season, he and Miles might actually have a reason to actually strike a chord and maybe take, you know, the enemy of your enemy is a friend kind of thing. So I think they might actually have that relationship in this season, you know, where it's not like continuously adversary, right? But they actually have a reason to work together and maybe strike a chord.
That would be interesting, like you said, because like you said, the whole time it's just been so adversarial, or, you know, he's like, you know, Miles can't stand him, and like you said, he's like going back to season 1 when he was like, you know, actually Lewis was telling me like, hey man, just respect him, like, you know, we kind of don't.
He was like, no, he said you don't have to respect him, you just have to show him respect, right? Like, you just have to just pretend.
So like you said, if there was some event that really brought them together, like, man, we got to work together on this, that would be interesting. I would love
to see that.
That would be, because like you said, I feel like that would be a monumental moment. It would have to be something so big.
It would have to be something regarding Amara, like something would have to happen to her where it's like, okay,
we got to come together. We got to put the differences aside
for real this time. But Amara and Rick, do you think he's going to go through with the FBI and like sell her out? Do you really think he's going to sell her down the river?
Yeah, you know what? It's the way that the episode ended tonight. You're kind of looking like, man, I think she was just tugging at the Rick's heart. You know, and like I said, I really think that they have a genuine relationship. But it was just tonight. It was, you really just saw Amara just kind of open up, and I feel like, man, that might bring Rick in where it's like, oh man, maybe I tell him, hey, my button was defective. I didn't get, like whatever you guys needed. Sorry. Like, I don't think he would just not work with them, but I feel I could definitely see Rick like, oh yeah, it just didn't work out, man. Sorry, I didn't get what you guys needed, type thing to kind of.
But do you think he's going to at any point tell Amara that he'd been working with the FBI, or like try to pull one of those, like, I was working with them, but now I realize how much I love you? Like, do you think it's going to go down that line at any point?
That is a good question, because I feel like I feel like if he ever said anything,
he'd be gone.
Yeah, she would snap right back, like, what? Gone.
but and if you're listening via podcast, please go ahead and give us 5 stars. We're here doing the whole like he would be gone and miming and things, so you can't really see us. But I just want you to know you have to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because 4 is just not enough.
Count them out.
But honestly, I just feel like Get Shorty is truly one of Hollywood's best kept secrets. I don't think enough people know about this show. You have amazing cast, Emmy-worthy performances. So I'm excited to be on this panel and just see what's going on. You know?
Yeah, no, they've done a great job in terms of, like you said, with the first season and then kind of setting things up going forward. You're just kind of like, there's so many, like you said, between the relationships, storylines, where it's like this could go anywhere. So I'm definitely excited to see.
And I'm very, very proud of Crystal Day, just in the sense, just in the sense that this is a character or versions of a character that we've seen in different forms, but yet he brings such freshness and originality to it. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. But that's our after show today. But let's go ahead and talk to the people about where they can find you.
Oh, for sure. So everybody, again, my name's Tenere. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at TenereW.
Okay, and I'm Thelma Mbaezue-Daniel. I'm so happy to be with you guys today. You can catch me on Instagram at Thelmy and Twitter at Moxie_soul. Until then, we'll catch you later.
See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.